Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Military Ops. In this video, we'll discuss information gathered from sources close to NATO member countries, indicating that Russia has concrete plans for an attack and how the alliance is preparing for it. The starting point for this discussion is the concern expressed by Finland. According to the Finnish newspaper Iltalehti, NATO sources have warned of the possibility that Moscow might attack Finland and other neighboring countries. This speculation is supported by past Russian military exercises, such as the 2017 Zapad drills, where Russia rehearsed attacks on Nordic and Baltic countries. Despite this, Finland's defense forces have stated that there is no immediate threat, but are closely monitoring the situation. This scenario highlights the historical tension between Russia and its neighbors, a reflection of geopolitical dynamics that have intensified since the invasion of Ukraine. It's not the first time Vladimir Putin has been accused of trying to expand Russian influence through force. Since the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, European leaders have warned that Moscow's aggression will not stop there. Germany's defense minister, Boris Pistorius, has bluntly stated that Europe must prepare for large-scale war by 2029 at the latest. These statements are not alarmist, but are grounded in historical patterns of Russian behavior and intelligence reports. Putin has consistently sought to exploit vulnerabilities in Europe, with examples including support for separatists in Georgia and Moldova, as well as the annexation of Crimea. These actions suggest a calculated strategy to gradually test NATO's and the European Union's limits. But how might such a Russian invasion unfold? According to the Finnish report, Russia's plan for a potential attack on NATO would be multifaceted and highly coordinated. Many sources agree that the 14th Army Corps, based in Murmansk, would play a leading role in the offensive. This unit, stationed on the Kola Peninsula, would be mobilized to attack Norway's northern coast through a combination of land, naval, and air operations. This region is highly strategic due to its proximity to the Arctic and polar shipping routes. Finnish Lapland, which borders Russia, could be invaded by Russian troops aiming to capture the Ivalo airport, north of Rovaniemi. This airport is a key mobility point for NATO operations. Other strategic locations in Finland could also come under heavy missile strikes, mirroring the actions Russia took against Ukraine in the early days of its invasion. In the Baltic region, Russia could attempt to seize Tallinn and Riga by leveraging its Baltic fleet and coordinating artillery and armored assaults. To the south, Belarus could serve as a staging ground to secure the Suwałki Gap, connecting Kaliningrad to Belarusian territory and effectively isolating the Baltic states. Meanwhile, Sweden's Gotland Island, located near the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad, would likely be a high-priority target. Seizing Gotland would hinder NATO's ability to provide support in the Baltic region. Each of these moves reflects a strategy designed to create buffer zones and complicate NATO's ability to mount a coordinated response. NATO has been developing a range of strategies to address Russian threats, with one of the most significant steps being the accession of Sweden and Finland to the alliance. This expansion has effectively turned the Baltic Sea into a NATO lake. Recently, the Nordic Response 2024 exercise underscored NATO's commitment to protecting its members in Northern Europe. During this operation, over 20,000 troops were deployed to Norway and Finland, demonstrating NATO's ability to respond swiftly to potential aggression. These exercises simulated defense scenarios against a Russian attack, including the rapid mobilization of troops and resources to counter an invasion. However, NATO's responses are not limited to direct combat scenarios. The alliance is also addressing hybrid threats, including sabotage and cyber attacks. One recent example involved damage to several undersea cables in the Baltic Sea, attributed to Russian operations. These attacks not only compromise critical infrastructure in the region, but also aim to destabilize the economy and communication networks of NATO countries. Such actions highlight Russia's strategy to weaken NATO through unconventional means. In response, NATO has demonstrated its recognition of the seriousness of these threats and its determination to ensure long-term stability and security in the region. Strategic depth is a fundamental concept in Russian military doctrine, reflecting the need to create buffer zones to shield Russian territory from external threats. This concept is far from new, dating back to the Tsarist era and extensively employed during the Soviet Union. Today, it remains a priority in Vladimir Putin's foreign and military policy. In the current context, Putin's vision of strategic depth manifests in a buffer zone stretching from the Arctic through the Baltic states, Belarus and Ukraine, all the way to the Black Sea. This approach aims to establish a protective perimeter around Russia, ensuring its geopolitical influence, while complicating NATO's efforts to secure its eastern flank. This approach seeks to ensure that no adversary can approach Russia's borders without encountering significant barriers, whether geographical, military, or political. A clear example of this strategy is Russia's actions in Ukraine. By annexing Crimea and supporting separatists in eastern Ukraine, Moscow aims to prevent the country from aligning itself with NATO. Additionally, Russia uses Belarus as a buffer state, maintaining a strong military and political presence there. However, this pursuit of strategic depth comes at a cost, generating significant tensions with NATO. In response, the alliance has increased its presence in targeted regions, such as the Baltics and the Black Sea. But how would Russia achieve all this while avoiding a nuclear response from NATO? Aware of NATO's nuclear deterrence principle, Russia would adopt an approach combining swift and localized conventional attacks with strong and powerful disinformation campaigns to achieve its objectives without provoking an immediate nuclear response. First, Russia would aim to limit its actions to carefully calculated regional and conventional attacks, avoiding crossing NATO's threshold for nuclear retaliation, while being strong enough to secure control over key areas. Additionally, Moscow relies on hybrid strategies, such as cyber attacks and economic sabotage, to weaken and destabilize NATO countries without these actions being classified as traditional acts of war. These measures would complicate NATO's ability to justify the use of nuclear weapons under its collective defense policy. Another factor is the use of diplomatic rhetoric and propaganda to divide NATO members by exploiting and deepening internal differences within the alliance. Russia would attempt to undermine the consensus required for a unified nuclear response. Finally, Russia's own nuclear deterrence would play a central role, with an aggressive posture and the capability for unlimited nuclear escalation. Moscow would signal that any retaliation against its conventional actions could lead to devastating consequences for the world, thereby persuading the alliance to play by Russia's rules, fighting only in fields selected by Putin and only with conventional weapons. It is an obvious and very risky strategy, but according to NATO, one that Putin would be willing to pursue to achieve his objectives. According to the alliance, the scenario described in this video could begin to take shape within 4 or 5 years, provided that Putin emerges victorious in his invasion of Ukraine, an essential prerequisite for his future expansionist plans. And what do you think about these moves by Russia? What do you believe NATO can do to stop Putin? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. See you next time.